to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockel.
We have arrived back to one of our favorite themes. I think
Yes.
one of our favorite themes that we've done in the Christian Principles Podcast history, and that's building the perfect
Blank.
something.
Yeah.
And in the past, what have we built? We built the perfect sub.
We've built the perfect substitute, and that episode got more comments and reactions from people than the other ones have,
Sure,
which was awesome to see. We've also built the perfect parent-teacher fellowship.
Oh,
Parent-teacher
yes.
association, whatever you want to call it. Parent-teacher comp. Yeah. We built the best PTA there ever was.
But that's for us as administrators. Is we we have to think about through hypotheticals all the time. It's nice to just think through a nice hypothetical.
Yeah, a happy one.
Like, you know what? I like that.
As opposed to a 3-part series, we're talking about the worst conversations we have.
Right. So
in this series,
building
we're
the
talking about
perfect,
nicest, the best, the perfectest.
building the perfect,
The most
and
perfect.
and for our topic today of what's the next perfect thing that we could look for? We look for an experience.
Oh, experiences.
So we've looked at an individual, we've looked at an organization,
Yep.
but we're looking at an experience this time that I think we as building leaders and program developers are going to recognize, like, this would be extremely valuable if we don't have it already.
Yeah. What can we do to make yourself stronger? And hopefully that's what we're doing in this podcast anyway. But the podcast we're talking about, the thing which we are building, which is
That experience.
today, the experience. I'm going to call it a vision session.
Yeah.
Perhaps you'd call it a leadership retreat. Perhaps you call it mission control. Perhaps you call it, major player getaway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even just 5-year plan, 10-year plan, whatever,
Plan. Could be that.
Yeah.
But the idea behind this is you are taking leadership, and you're getting away, or you're locking yourself in office, whatever it is. But what is the perfect, if Matt were to build his perfect, if Mark was to build his perfect time away with the stakeholders necessary to actually get focused work done on big picture planning to reach the mission in a better way.
Yeah.
How would you do it? Where would you go? What would you do? How long would you spend there? Who would be there? On that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So that's what we're talking about today.
That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna get into. So start thinking along with us.
Yeah.
Maybe your ideas are very different from what our ideas are gonna be.
And you've probably done this successfully for some time, and we only have. This is, honestly, this is going to be something that we have conjoined. We're not conjoined.
Pretty close. Spiritually conjoined.
Oh, love it. Hip, neck, shoulder, arm, leg. I don't know where would we conjoin, but
Definitely not the head. Definitely not the head.
And we would have mostly separate. We just have a little skin attachment, mostly separate though.
Oh dear.
I wouldn't want to share legs with you or anything.
I think we need to go to our brand partner right
brand
now.
partner, hard reset. All right, brand partner, step in.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
All right, come back.
All right, here we go.
Come back when I can join Gwyn.
We are going to build the perfect vision session.
build it. Okay.
Where do we start on this?
Let's start there. Where?
Shoo! Where are we going?
Let's start there. Let's start with the where. I would suggest that this not be the office that I usually reside in.
That's first on my list. I mean, when it comes to taking serious time to stop, think, and consider, and get everybody's involvement, you cannot be in your normal setting.
Where you always are. Yes.
Because
you know what gets done where we always are? Nothing.
Well, not just that, but I even think about our church staff, pastoral staff meetings. I mean, there's only 4 of us.
Yeah.
And yet, how often do we get all 4 in the same room at the same time?
And when you do, how awesome
we do.
is it?
We're getting pulled away. We're doing all kinds of stuff, and it's just easy distractions.
Yeah.
You start talking about, what, we should really look at improving this thing. Well, let's go look at it. And, even that, is distracting and taking away from, even if it is on point, it's too easy to get bogged down, and you're not really accomplishing as much as you potentially could. So getting away is definitely a priority.
So where is away, though? Are we talking remote isolation, no internet access? Or are we talking just somewhere across town at perhaps the local... So in here in Wycomico County, there is the Community Foundation Eastern Shore, and nonprofits have access to their nonprofits have free access with reservation to their conference spaces. And so perhaps it's just across town. You're 10 minutes away, but you're in a space that's not yours. But there's a full complement of modern life, modern office amenities and needs and whatnot. So which one are you feeling?
I think that's definitely a great resource to have in your back pocket. But I guess it depends on how big of a vision you're trying to build. Because if we're talking like we're starting from scratch and we want to just completely rehaul our ministry and consider where we need to take it and what we need to do, you might need days
we went to birth
to accomplish that. So if it's going to be a longer period of time, I would probably encourage someplace where you really can get away and spend all the time together, as opposed to something that's just in town that you get together for a couple hours. You're limited by the reservation time that you have, and then I don't know. It's like when I love the word game, Scattergories. You ever play that game?
Oh, I love Scattergories.
And the thing I love about Scattergories, well, here's the thing. I'm not a dominant force in Scattergories because when I just am playing that game in my head, I am amazing. But as soon as you start that stinking timer, just so much happens in my head that I can't get it out. As soon as we're limited by time, or we are limited in some way, it's going to kind of hurt somewhat your time together. And then that's going back to even the distractions. So if you can remove that as much as possible, maybe somebody has a rental space or something where you can have it for a whole day, like that would be great, because, and I guess when you're thinking about it, how much time do you think it's going to be necessary to accomplish what you're trying to set, and then make sure you have more time than that?
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's just whatever that is. So if you need a couple days, or if you just need a couple hours, that's what's going to kind of, for me, be the momentum of how far away, what kind of space am I looking for? Is there going to be food involved? Is there not going to be food? There's always going to be food involved.
Are we fasting through this? What are we doing?
Yeah. Actually, that's a point. I was going to say, I was jumping. There's always going to be food involved, but no, that's good.
If you are seriously, and again, we're building the perfect one here. So we need to stop asking questions and start saying, "What do you want?" So, so Matt, what do you want?
Man,
what's your what for you? You are the leader of this ministry. What do you want?
Log cabin on the mountainside overlooking Lake Tahoe
with access to Wi-Fi or not?
Probably not. Probably no Wi-Fi.
Okay, so so you either come with the paper documents you need.
Yeah. Yep.
Or you're coming out of your mind.
Bring the documents. I think have the documents available. Do as much as you can from your mind.
Yeah.
Because if you continue to say, well, what do we say about that already? Like, again, you're kind of limiting your creativity of thinking outside the box.
On the other side,
what should it be? That's where you want to get to. Because forget what it already is. What should it be for our ministry?
Now, do you mean in a way of like throwing away the American Constitution?
Sure. Forget start. No, I'm not saying
revise that.
Not
sucker.
to that.
Who cares?
But I do think it's funny. I tell this to in my government classes when it comes to establishing a government. There have been attempts in the past. You can look these things up. Even on reality TV, they've attempted to do this, where societies say, let's throw everything out and let's just start over. But the very first thing that they do is, all right, how many of you want a democratic government? It's like, you're already doing a democratic government. You can't start there. And that's what, I think no matter what you do, you already have a foundation. And thankfully for us as believers, we have the Bible. And you can't throw that out. Yeah. So, obviously that's your starting point. But, there's already there's history of the school. There's all kinds of things that you're going to be depending on already. It's just, the documentation doesn't have to dictate what you're thinking and what you're trying to accomplish. So
I see the value of going away somewhere isolated, remote. I do. I though probably wouldn't go to the mountains somewhere unless it was extremely picturesque. I would
Yeah.
probably still want to have access to whiteboard markers, access to the internet, access to things that I would want to use in that time to I'd also think about the people I'm going with probably have a little bit different. Even though this is my perfect setup, I wouldn't be going to a Ravens game. Maybe I would use a Ravens conference room,
Well,
like
okay.
where the quarterback.
There you go,
meet or
there you go,
something.
yeah.
There we go. I'd go to the Ravens quarterback room, or something like that, because it would be an interesting space to be.
Is
but-
there a teachers Hall of Fame? I don't think there
Is there
probably
Christian
probably
Educators
probably
Hall of Fame?
probably not. But I could see like walking into a place like the Hall of Fame, be like, just breathe it in.
Yeah, I couldn't see.
Let's just breathe it in. Let's use this
Well,
inspiration.
maybe you go to a big. I say big. It doesn't, big is wrong. You go to one-room schoolhouse, doesn't it? Big, and you get
Yeah.
inspired that way.
Oh,
maybe,
man,
maybe
that-
there's a history.
you
Maybe
tapped
part
on
of
that
where
for
you
me,
go
for
is
sure.
Like you go to you add in just a so for our ministry, we
can
know
you-
that our pastor came from Calvary Baptist in Lansdale. Maybe we go to Calvary Baptist in Lansdale and sniff the air.
Sure.
And say, okay, this is where we're going. We're going to spend time at the church conference room.
You're probably not allowed to rent out Independence Hall. That probably wouldn't. You probably can't do that. Sit up
You
there
just
in
let,
that chair.
You get like five tours in a row with different names, and just keep going through.
But yeah, no, I, that's a good idea. My great grandfather was a one-room school teacher, so that definitely resonates
Oh, wow.
because going into those
I know
those
nothing
places
about
where
my
they
family.
have literally teaching with sticks and stones,
Yeah.
like that's what they had,
Uh-huh.
and they're teaching the full
The
gamut
the
of
McGuffey reading.
yeah.
It's a blue black spell.
I mean,
Blue
my
back
great grandfather did live in the early 1800s,
Okay,
but
yeah.
but I think that's in whatever fits, because that's the other thing. You have to know who you're going
Yeah,
with, and
many
they have
people.
to be comfortable.
Speaking of your people,
Speaking of my people,
who's going on this?
Right.
We know where you're going.
Let's talk
and
about
I
the
guess
who.
We know that I'm going to the Ravens quarterback room. Who
Sure.
are we taking with us on this bad boy?
So obviously, as the school leader, you need to go.
Yeah, you should probably be there.
As the school administrator, who is probably taking the lead in this, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, let's keep it parked on the school right now.
Let's
talk
park
about
on the school,
larger
not-
ministry.
you're
'cause
right.
We're talking to church schools as well sometimes. Let's think just about the school right now.
But I would also dare say, though, even if it is the larger ministry, it's probably going to be the school leader that's going to be the one that's going to kind of push this thing.
Maybe, sure.
Potentially,
Could be.
because I don't know. It's a lot more difficult for a school leader to just get into the flow of here it is another year, so
Yeah.
let's just keep doing what we do. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud.
No
But
matter what you say right now, by the way, I can't get out of my head that I'm going to leave this podcast. I'm going to go call the Ravens and see how much they rent that quarterback room out for.
I don't even want to know.
Because I bet nobody's ever asked them that in their existence. I bet nobody's ever asked them, hey, I need to do a brain session. I need to do a vision session for my ministry. Could we use your quarterback room?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to say? No? Like, especially if it's out of the season. If they're not in season,
No,
it would totally make sense to let a nonprofit use that.
Yeah.
It's just wasting away there. Nobody's using the whiteboard.
Before we continue on with the who as well, because you made me think of this, another thing that needs to go along with the considerations of the where
Yeah.
is like, I know I brought up food already, but like, you don't want to have to be the one preparing the food.
No.
So there needs to be access to food or somebody that is doing that for you.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
So let's just clarify that.
Forget the who for a second. This is definitely something we're spending. Unless
yeah.
people are going to donate all the money for this, or you're going to find it's a perfect one we're building. So I guess we
Right.
should say that though. In my perfect one, this is getting catered, and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that taken
yeah.
beforehand.
Right.
I don't want to leave. I don't want to have to leave that space.
Yeah.
I imagine mine is kind of a locked door.
Yep.
I'm not leaving that space.
Yeah.
Also, no one uses the restroom in this. There's no
Yeah,
leaving that
doesn't-
space at all.
Perfect.
It's a
The perfect
locked-in.
vision session is nobody has the urge.
Nobody digests.
Nobody needs to go
You enjoy
anywhere.
food, but you don't digest.
The funny thing is, I'm kind of like that already. Like
yeah,
when
I'm
I
not
get
either.
when I get into that mode,
Yeah.
like I can go for hours, and I'm looking around me, and people are like, "Please hit the pause
I
button.
forgot.
I have got to go." I was
Forgot
like,
I'm
"Oh yeah,
amongst- I
that's
forgot that I'm amongst
that's a
mortals.
reality."
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I said also what we're eating some healthier stuff. Like I do want it to be serious, but then we
Yeah.
have like a
There's got to be
crazy
a
middle
nice,
of the night,
nice thing. So back to the
Okay,
who.
back to the
Back
who.
to the
Back
who.
to the who. All right.
So I think you obviously have to have, depending on your organizational structure, you probably have leadership over you, such as a president. Maybe it's the pastor of the church. Maybe it's just some what's the person, president of the school board. Yeah. So that individual definitely needs to be involved. If there's support staff that are also essential people with the school, so I'm thinking about
If you have a facilities manager,
facilities,
job, if you had even like a CFO, if you had a financial person,
financial head would be a very important individual to keep you grounded, so that when you're coming up with perfect situations, as we are doing right now, they can write, "Hey, that costs money, guys. The Ravens conference room is gonna cost money."
I think you'll be free. I'm hitting pause right now. I want to call. Hey, Biscotti, I need your help. Mr. Biscotti, I need your help.
Yeah. Now there may be others that would be helpful. I think the biggest thing I want to say with the who is as small as we can get away with, because you go back to that old saying, too many cooks, you end up just getting nowhere. Or if you have perhaps a school board member that is very agenda driven, they're not really focused on the history of the school, or they're not focused. They just have what they want, or even a parent, that may be that way, or even a teacher that might be that way. You gotta be kind of careful in these vision sessions that it's not going to be overhauled in a way that you're just from the very get-go, you're going down a road that you may or may not want to go down. So
they need to be vested people. They need to be
definitely need to be people that understand the history and from even before. And I think you can get this feeling, like if I were to take off tomorrow, like I know the maybe 3 people I would want to go with me, because I know they're going to go about it with the same motivations that I have. And that, it's not about me, it's not about what I want, it's what's best for this ministry. And so if you have those people, even if they're not necessarily in a specific leadership position, but they're of the same heart and mind, that's valuable.
You would want to make sure I would want to make sure the people I had with me are people who are able to perhaps not affect change literally solely on their own, but when they come back from something like this, what they have said will be adopted.
Yeah, that's great.
Because otherwise you're probably wasting your time. And that's not good for anybody. So if I'm setting this up, I'm definitely taking, I would have to take the school board president with me. There would be a ministry head that I would have had to take with me as well. Now, getting the 3 of us in the same room for any length of time would have been an incredible feat. But those 3 people, I definitely would have wanted someone who was going to be. Tell you what, if you just had those 3, mountains could have moved. It really would have been a huge deal. So I think about those 3. If you are a church school, I don't think there's any way around having your head of your pastor there with you. I don't think there's any way around that. It has to happen.
And I think it's a healthy thing too, because
Absolutely.
I think if your focus is on the school, there's going to be things that come out and you're like, well, that's going to benefit the church too. So I think that's
if it is truly like a 5-year planning thing, perhaps it's not your principals under you or your lead faculty member. Perhaps not them. However, if it is school focused and the school is either independent or allowed to operate in such a way that, I don't want to say independent of the church for a church school, but the feeling of the leader, you, would never allow this to go somewhere that's going to be outside the mission of the church. Well, if you can be trusted for that, maybe it is you and your principals, and and you are the ones who are going to be the leaders, the movers and the shakers, and what you will say will come out of that. So
I think if that was the case, where if pastor just said to me, hey, you and your principals go out and just have that vision quest. I think
Overnight in
I
the
think
woods.
I would already be going about it a little bit differently than if it was a whole ministry
Yeah.
group. Yeah, I don't know. Not that it would be better or worse. I just think I would automatically be different. But
We have the who. We have. I guess we don't really have. We have the where.
we somewhat have the who. We have the where.
I have a very clear picture of the where. I have a little bit fuzzier picture of the who. And
I
because
think, but it's very dependent
hypothetical.
on the when.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Because when you do this, may also be kind of a telltale of who you take with you. Because
Interesting.
I have a picture of when this would be ideal.
Okay. Let's hear
But
it.
I want to hear from you first. When you think this would be
So
ideal.
I would. So in my limited experience with these sort of sessions, and like I said from the start, we're not saying we're the experts on this necessarily. This is definitely building what we would think is perfect because we would like to get there. But we would have a quote unquote lock in for it was like 6 hours, 7 hours in a day, and it was an entire board, myself, and then a couple of the office, the support staff, so to speak. And I found those to be hugely valuable. I don't know if they did or not, but I found them hugely valuable. It was get everything on the table. It was look ahead. It was whatever amount of review that level of leadership was going to do of parent-teacher, parent surveys and things like that. And we did it in the we did it before Christmas break. So before Christmas break sometime was the big sit down. And as far as where that was in the year, that allowed for the planning of tuition, that allowed the planning of the faculty staff, that allowed for, or at least this was a time spent where, and again, it's not quite, this is a little bit apples to oranges because in that situation it was very hands-on. It was very, we're going to walk through every bit of the school and we're going to make decisions on every bit of the school as this group. Where the vision, mission, the 5-year planning that I'm talking about for this sort of thing, are we staying on mission? How are we advancing the mission I'm talking about for this vision meeting that we're proposing is not quite so nitty-gritty. So, first of all, if it's not something that you do, if it's not something that I would have done, I would say it doesn't matter when it does. It doesn't matter, just get it in. Because it's going to be effective whenever it will be helpful to the ministry and strengthen the ministry whenever it can occur. If it's a school setting, there's already so much that pulls the administration away from the school anyway. Sure, maybe I'm focusing on this doing in the summertime. The summertime makes sense to me just logistically, so I'm not pulling those staffers away from their duties because they are going to be pulled away from their duties for other things, and that is what it is. So maybe I'm filling a part of the summertime with this, and I guess that makes the most sense, is summertime. If it wasn't going to be the summertime, I probably would put it more around either a fiscal year end or, start of the year kind of makes sense. A time after, it wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't be at the start of the year. I would want it fresh. I would want a freshness